Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to our Sunday morning roundtable. This morning is Sunday, January 14th, 2018. And this morning, it will be Day who will lead us in our morning prayer.
O my God, I offer as a consecrated gift upon thine altar a heart dedicated to thy service, lips speaking only words of charity, love, and truth, thoughts striving to be only the true thoughts of the mind of God. Help me to endure unto the end, strong in the faith, powerful in the truth. All the influence that I can bring to bear, all the force of tongue or pen that is mine, I offer in thy service. May heaven help, consecrate, and accept.
Thank you. And then miscellaneous writings. We today in this classroom are enough to convert the world if we are of one mind. For then the whole world will feel the influence of this mind, as when the earth was without form, and mind spake, and form appeared. So this morning is Sunday, January 14th, 2018. We are recording from the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, Plainfield, New Jersey, the United States of America. Our subject this morning is sacrament. And before we get going, there are just a couple things I wanted to mention. First, our magazine, Love is the Liberator, which this January issue is going to be on Mrs. Eddy, the woman in the apocalypse, is almost completed. And we thank you because there are many of you who are in the magazine. Those who give testimonies, who have written articles. Sometimes the testimonies are used as articles. Anyway, it's going to be another wonderful edition, and we hope you all will get it and read it. Very inspiring. Also, there has been a request that we have a sort of a day where people come to Plainfield, especially the out-of-town people. So you can maybe meet people that you hear every week but haven't yet actually met in person, although we meet mentally. So that day will be April 22nd, Sunday, April 22nd. Come to Plainfield Sunday. Okay, and any of you who would like to come, we will have information on the website about hotels. If you're flying, you would fly into Newark Airport. There are places there you can rent a car or get public transportation to Plainfield. So, and some of you perhaps will drive. Of course, we would like to know who is coming so we can, so we know. I don't think we're not planning anything special. We'll have the round table, the service, and then there will be a luncheon for everyone. So we hope that some of you will be able to join us. April 22nd. Beautiful time of year in Plainfield. Next week and going forth, Florence will be reading the prayer. Since we've had such a shy buzz here, Florence is very happy to read it, so she'll do it. Thank you. Okay, the subject being sacrament, and is Suzanne here? Okay, Suzanne, you want to give us the definition you found? It was a very beautiful one.
Okay, I have to open my computer.
I have it. It's first an oath, and then an outward and visible sign of inward and spiritual grace. So why is that such an important definition?
Well, it does get to the heart of your relationship with God, which is the only thing that matters.
Well, and in many religions, isn't it just the outward sign? The most important part of it is what? It's the inward sign of inward and spiritual grace. What's within your heart that matters. It's not dead ceremonies. It's the living, palpitating truth and love being lived every moment. So this is what real sacrament is. And thank you for that definition. It's a beautiful one.
Yeah, I like that because I know if it's only the outward sign and people see it, I know from my own experience when I was younger, when I saw that, it was a sign that, Christianity must not really work. If these people who supposedly have it, are really just living some really weird life or something. So, having that inward part is so important.
And dear Jeremy, he went to how many? He was baptized how many times?
Oh, my. So many. Foolish amount. It was like 15 to 18 or something.
He's been exposed to just about every religion on earth, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, let it be in your hearts. It's the outward sign isn't really worth much at all. What's in your heart? As long as it's in your heart, you don't have to even have an outward sign. Your life will be an outward sign. And then the beautiful golden text, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do, from Acts. And both Jeremy and Suzanne mentioned that on the forum.
But I just it's just such a simple thing, really. But I know for a long time I didn't do that. And, if I ever spoke to God for a long time, I wasn't really expecting anything or expecting foolishness. So I'm just really grateful for this church providing this practical faith that allows me to ask and know that whatever I'm asking for will come true, because I'm just asking for what he wants me to do.
Thank you. Suzanne, did you want to add to that, or anyone?
Yeah, I feel that as we just spoke about, the spiritual grace, the love for God that will enable you to finally say, well, whatever you want me to do. So it kind of connects in a way.
Yes, it does connect.
And there's no planning of what you want to do. You have to wait for God's word and be ready to move.
Thank you.
I think it's the sincerest humility, too.
Thank you.
And the deepest trust as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I just mentioned that for years, even though I was going to Christian Science churches, I didn't really go to God for guidance on what he would have me to do, but more on how he could help me with my agenda. So it was pretty, there was no submitting to God's will. It was going to God, but please make what I want come true.
No, that is a major point and a huge misconception. So thank you. Absolutely right. I did the same thing. That's what you use Christian Science to get what you want, whatever that was, whether it was to be healthy or have a nice family or the house, big old house, or whatever it was you wanted. You used it for that purpose, and it couldn't be farther from the truth.
God is not Santa Claus.
And we don't hand to him our to-do list. Everything is upside down And it took this church and a lot of retraining before I got that right. You don't have any preconceived notions as to what God does want you to do. I know Gary has given that testimony, right, where he used to
plan and think and overthink, get bogged down in human analysis. And it always took so long, and it never turned out right unless I finally gave up on it, said, okay, I give up. What do you want me to do? And then Mrs. Evans explained that the most valuable skill that we can learn is not how to analyze things or intellectually approach anything. The most valuable skill we can ever learn is the skill of listening to God speaking to us. And once I got that, then things really started changing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I gave this testimony, but years ago, and Gary and I were, I'm not even sure if we were married yet, but we were dating and before cell phones and things, and we were supposed to meet somewhere, and the trains were delayed or something happened. Anyway, so, we were both, quote, Christian Scientists, so I thought, well, I would pray, and even though, Gary would get the message as to where I was. And, well, that didn't happen. That didn't work out. And when we finally did get together, I don't know how long it took, but he said he had been figuring out analytically, how it should happen, when the trains, the time, the this and that, and the chances and the probabilities. I don't think I'd ever heard of an explanation like that before. So anyway, he has changed drastically, as I have as well. So, but yeah, this is about what God wants you to do. You are His reflection. He is working in you and through you for His good purpose. You run into trouble when you think, this is what I want, or what I want for my children or my family, or this is what I want. Forget about it. It'll blow up in your face. See it often. So you got to back off.
And the fact is, God knows everything. God knows what's best for each one of us. So submitting to His will is not like giving up anything good. It really is gaining the very best that God has for you.
That is a very preconceived notion, this idea that you will lose something if you obey God or do what He would have you do. And it's why a lot of people refuse to do it. In Gary's reading from Unity of Good, Mrs. Eddy says, all that is beautiful, his readings from Wednesday night, all that is beautiful and good in your individual consciousness is permanent. All that is beautiful and good in your individual consciousness is permanent. You will never lose anything good. If God gives it, you cannot lose it. I looked up, the words loss and lose and things like that. Mrs. Eddy's whole list. Your faculties cannot be lost in science. Your spiritual estate cannot be lost. Your memory can't be lost. Your identity and individuality cannot be lost. Your perfection cannot be lost. She says all these in Science and Health. She says all this. And on page 1, she says, no loss can occur by trusting God with our desires. You don't lose, you win. And if we have been taught here, what is the only thing you lose?
Sin, disease, and death.
Human will. Sin, disease, and death, yes, and human will, all that is involved with sin, disease, and death. That's what you lose. That's all. So that is a ploy of the devil to get people not to, I don't want to give my life to God. I don't want to do that. Why would I? When
That straight and narrow way is much too narrow, and I'm so broad-minded.
But the idea that he will mold our desires is even beautiful.
Thank you. Yes. That's science of health.
Yeah. And in the Blue Book, I saw something that was beautiful too, or that is beautiful too. He says, God's child can never make a mistake, can never lose an opportunity, never cause a regret. His life is bright with abundant goodness, hope, and promise. Love has a plan and purpose for everyone to fulfill, and none can escape it or fail to perform the will of God. So we can trust it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. And our next magazine, Liberator, is going to be on employment, true employment, and that would be a beautiful statement for it to put in there. We all are individual, we all are unique, we all have different things to offer, and we all are important in this mission. So when we align ourselves up with this great truth, wonderful things happen. Now, Parthens, Susanna, I thought Linda's comments went along with it too. What did Parthens write about qualifications? Do you have that listed? Yes, I do.
So thank you for this week's lesson, reminding me to become master over sin, disease, and death requires more determination, persistence, patience, and self-sacrifice than that of the most dedicated student seeking to master a musical instrument. I cannot simply look at the violin in its case and do nothing but appreciate it for hours, dreaming with torrents of emotion of all the great violin masters of the past, and then expect God to place me suddenly at the footlights of the Carnegie Hall.
I love that, because that is what some scientists do.
Or try to do.
And Parthens knows from where he speaks. He's a musician, I'm sure, par excellence, and he went to Juilliard. He teaches music, so he knows. He knows what it takes. And so then what did Suzanne write? Do you have it up, Suzanne, or do you want Linda to read it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I said it reminds me of this passage in Science and Health. Whoever would demonstrate the healing of Christian Science must abide strictly by its rules, eat every statement, and advance from the rudiments laid down. There's nothing difficult nor toilsome in this task when the way is pointed out, but self-denial, sincerity, Christianity, and persistence alone win the prize, as they usually do in every department of life.
Thank you. So, doesn't that make sense? Do you think just because you're a Christian Scientist that it's just all handed to you on a silver platter? That's another wrong conception of it. And I know Florence and I still have people calling us, they just want the magic wand.
Some think that they even inherit it, or that it's in their genes.
It requires just what Suzanne read, and Mrs. Eddy says it in other places too. Now we will go to the Bible over and over and over. First with Isaiah. Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And he said, "Here I am, send me." And then we have in Matthew, Jesus walking by the Sea of Galilee saw two brethren, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And they straightway left their nets and followed him. They didn't have a discussion They didn't go home and ask their parents or their spouse. Straightway. And then a scribe came, this is Matthew again, and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said unto him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. What did that mean?
Like everything depends totally on God. Demonstration that can't just expect things. You just have to get each thing from all your care from God. I'm sure you did have a place to rest your head when you dug you to the top.
Thank you. That's beautiful, Craig. Mm-hmm. It rests totally on demonstration. You know, that's true. We were talking a few minutes ago about the planning or not planning. I'm not against planning or having, sometimes you obviously have to plan, but you also have to be flexible under the hand of God. And I don't plan much. Sometimes I don't even know, what I'm going to do an hour from now. It's the nudging of God I wait for.
Isn't there something about, Father, this is what I would like, but thy will be done?
Yes.
True. And Mrs. Eddy says a day is the unfoldment of God's plan. So if that's what I'm knowing, what's all this rigid planning I used to do?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's a lack of trust. And then you get mad when things aren't working out the way you planned.
Sometimes at work, when I'm at work, everything is so goal-oriented, and everything is like a plan you have to do a year in advance about this, that, or where your career is going or moving. And I instinctively, all the time, I had kind of dislike plans, and because I'm always, I don't know, and I have felt guilty sometimes about it because I think, well, I should be planning something. I should have a goal. And you hear people around you about all these goals and plans and so forth. It took me a while to realize that, just trusting God with your career and with your plans is the best way. So it's everything nowadays is planning and goals. And I just, it's a struggle sometimes, but I'm becoming more assured of not following the crowd and doing what everybody's doing, because that's what you're supposed to do, the goals and the planning. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pilar.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. The human mind doesn't know how to listen for God. The human mind thinks that it needs to plan. And there's a lot of pressure because the human mind thinks it's right because it doesn't know better.
And then you can start planning for others, too. Your children or others. They've got to, they haven't done a certain thing in a certain time, then
there's something wrong.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that not all of it is bad. Some of it is good. But when it gets willful, then it becomes bad, very bad. So, okay, and then another disciple said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead. What did that mean?
God first.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like there's always so many excuses that can come up to keep you from doing what you need to do for God. And it'll be perfectly set up for how you will listen to it, just from my own experience.
Thank you.
There are no end to the excuses. We could write a book on it. I've often thought I would.
But you had a reason not to.
It's in my head. I don't know whether I need to. So, well, anyway, the reasons that people couldn't come to church, couldn't give testimonies, couldn't do this, couldn't read the lesson in the morning, couldn't do this or that. It goes on and on and on.
It all seems so valid if you listen to it.
Very valid, very tailor-made, and
wrong.
Martha Wilcox said, and this is what woke me up from it, she said that your excuses will end you up in either in a hospital or in an insane asylum. Imagine that.
How true.
Watch it.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying watch it by watch your excuses. Go ahead, Craig.
It really helps when it comes to realization that ultimately God is our ultimate help. We need to be careful, like those pearls. When we get closer to Him, that's tremendous, and nothing can replace that. And so that's like a supreme, the ultimate, is to be able to grasp what God is for us. Like when they said, let the dead bury their dead. Well, Jesus was giving something that was, supreme. Nothing's better, and would even bless those that are behind, their friends. But the fellow didn't recognize it.
Thank you. Very true. And what did Martha Wilcox mean when she said your excuses will end you up into a hospital or in an insane asylum?
I think that
Go ahead.
when you keep doing that, I'm learning that sometimes you don't even know to the last minute what you're supposed to do. That's what I'm learning. But when you keep making excuses, then it just gets worse and worse, less and less of what you're supposed to do and speak to God.
Thank you. Very, very good. Anybody else?
And it gets to where you can't hear Him anymore, and that's when the suggestions that come in loom much greater than God, and that's where you end up.
Yes.
Excuses like not being meek. Meekness is when you're so flexible to whatever the will is of God. Excuses the opposite of that.
Well, excuses are justifying why you don't do something.
So they keep you in your old habits, they keep you in your old thinking, and therefore they keep you, sooner or later, like she said, hospital or insane asylum.
Right. Excuses are the human will in full bloom. And the human will is opposed to God's will. So it can't result in anything good. It's impossible.
And also, once you start it, you start a stream flowing. And it takes a mighty effort to stop it. And next thing you know, you're the slave of this process of excusing. You're out of God's control. So relinquished your freedom, slavery.
Thank you.
It's disobedience. If God is telling you something, you have an excuse why you're not doing it. That's being disobedient.
That's the crux, really. That's very good, yes.
And you can start to blame other people all the time for everything that's going wrong with you, and then at some point you feel like everyone's against you, and that's one of those points of insanity that can...
Right. That's good. And that's one of the excuses. Other people, you blame other people why you haven't done what you should. Now, of course, first of all, it has to be something that you should be doing. And then it doesn't matter. You can do it. So maybe you should be doing something, and so you get a headache. So I can't do it because I have a headache. If God wants you to do it, He will give you the health and the peace and everything else to do it. And this is just an aggressive mental suggestion to get you to stop it. And if you know that, you will come through it, and you will find yourself healed of the problem, because that's all it is an aggressive mental suggestion. And one of the, we have it in this January's Liberator. It was an article, I think an article by Day Day, saying that the day she was supposed to read, the Wednesday night she was supposed to read. What, Day Day?
I had probably one of the worst stomach pain attacks I had ever had before, and everything just was so clearly off and wrong. And I had to work and work and work to overcome it, because nothing was going to stop me from reading the next day. So I worked with what I knew and what I had found in science and health. And, of course, my mother did support in prayer. And the next day I woke up still feeling a little off, but I went and sat down, and I was ready to read.
And she read beautifully. And afterwards, I'm sure she felt great, right?
I did.
She did. And what was it your mother gave you, worked with?
Well, I actually was working with something I had worked with before. I don't have the page, but it was, when the temptation of sickness or sin, when sick, tempts you, cling steadfastly to God and His idea. And I just worked with that the whole night.
That's excellent. That's one we all should know and work with on science and health.
390, 393.
I'm not sure what page that one is on.
I think it's 495.
Thank
that
you.
one.
And then also you mentioned that Florence gave you about animal magnetism, following rules for overcoming animal magnetism, given by Miss Betty to work with.
Right. See what it's trying to do, know that it cannot do it, and see that it's not done. That's the paraphrase of it.
Thank you. That will help you overcome excuses. That's all they are. So don't bow down to them. Ultimately, they will be, disobedient. But all these people we're reading about here were obedient. They did right away, for the most part anyway. Some of them were stalling here. And then it goes on in Matthew 13, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hidden in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. And then, again, the goodly pearls that the merchant is looking for. The most important thing there is, and you won't lose. So we should all have this, and this is our true sacrament. This is daily deeds and daily living it. And now also, Linda spoke about when Jesus said to go and do likewise. What did you say?
I was writing in regards to the idea that you just can memorize certain statements and then just pull them out of the hat, or if you have the right statement, then things will be okay or fixed. Without the part where Parthens pointed out that he says, if you abide in me, then you're my disciples, and the whole key, they have to be a disciple, and that they're laws. But I was actually writing this in reference to a New Age retreat. I happened to be looking up about the floods and the mudslides during my watches and stuff to prepare on certain things I might want to pray about. And in the area that these slides were was this 5-star New Age retreat. I kind of thought it was funny that you would have a 5-star spiritual experience, but it made me really realize that, and I liked what Gary said yesterday, is they want to hear all the good stuff, but not how to handle the stuff that you're going to go up against, the resistance and opposition. And I think this idea of just repeating words, like this mind, body, spirit, and it's really become predominant. It did in at least Boston, and I went along with it. I went along with New Age books, and it's this concept that you can just say these wonderful statements and get into a mental space. And I realized it was all about you feeling good inside and you feeling this, and where was the selfless following Jesus and doing what he told us to do. And that part nobody wants to hear or do. And a lot of these New Age do leave a lot of the Bible out. And the more that I've done the Bible studies here, the more passionate I've become about this topic.
Thank you. That's going to be one of our up-and-coming Love is the Liberator, too, Christian Science versus New Age. People need to know the difference of it.
Because it's in the same, they use the same language and the same words, and that's what gets very convoluted. But what's behind it is mysticism and spiritualism and all kinds of.
And it's all self-centered.
And it's all very self-centered. I mean, it was all about pampering yourself, the 5-star experience with all these experts. Nothing about going and fixing your hateful thoughts or your resentments or your having boundaries or nothing. Just feel good.
Thank you. That reminded me, Mrs. Evans used to talk about, there was another practitioner in our church years ago, and I guess she used to tell people when they would call for help to just relax and enjoy the treatment, the luxury of a Christian Science treatment. Can you imagine that?
She lost more patience than she gained. And she ended up leaving the church with a few other disgruntled people.
That's true.
And some of these things do talk about giving up hate and all that, but there isn't a scientific process to it. It's not really understanding through the Bible, so it even mimics it. And some of it's a little better than others, but it's not scientific, and it's not the laws of God, and it's not being obedient to the laws, and that's the difference. And you have to be aware of it, because it can be very subtle, hard to...
Yeah, right. Putting you to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, who are they turning to, themselves or to God, is the question I ask.
Exactly.
And in citation 3 in Science and Health that Linda's referring to, Mrs. Eddy says that implicit faith in the teacher and all the emotional love we can bestow on him will never alone make us imitators of him. We must go and do likewise. Else we are not improving the great blessings which our Master worked and suffered to bestow upon us. The divinity of Christ was made manifest in the humanity of Jesus. So, and those of you, I know someone was speaking about going to class and then being told afterwards they needed to go out and heal. Well, in this church, I mean, you all should be going out and healing. You should be healing yourselves and others. That doesn't mean to be necessarily going into the hospital and raising the dead, but every day should be days of demonstration, of healing, even if you're healing something in your thought. You're expressing a kindness to someone who needs it. This is living it. This is going in and doing likewise. And Jesus sent 12 forth, commanding them, saying, Go not in the way of the Gentiles, and into the city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And it continues. So we're always looking for opportunities where we can help, where we can share this truth, where we can do something kind. And if we're looking for the opportunities, God will give those opportunities.
I think that one of the classes here every week, week after week, is a huge deal. And also in this mind, body, spirit stuff, they think they're praying to God. They don't know who God is. And I found that the more that I go to these classes and practice, it makes me understand who God is. And then it becomes more practical in your life.
Thank you very much. Now, that's a scary thing when people go out professing things and they don't even know who God is. This, again, is where we began the class with the idea, what Suzanne read about the need for the study and the working and the applying it with your whole heart, not just dabbling in it. If you're going to dabble in it, just go. Do something else. Honestly, this is how children die under, quote, Christian Science treatment. It's these dabblers who have no idea what they're doing. They don't even know what the science is, and then they give it this name. So No.
And they're so proud of the class instruction they received. And they're so proud of their teacher. They're so proud of their education. They're so full of pride, they don't have a clue as to what Christian Science really is.
And this is a tragedy. It's tragic that these things happen. It doesn't need to be. And, you know, Mrs. Eddy was quite interesting. She thought her manual was a masterpiece. All of you should know it. And in it, if you read it, there's hardly anything you can do without her approval. Those are the estoppel clauses. And that's why the whole structure of the movement, the organization, after she's no longer here, what would happen?
It would dissolve.
Yeah.
The human organization would not be allowed to continue. The spiritual organization is the only legitimate organization, with God at its head. No popes,
So it would continue, but not with all this restriction. And also, in the 88th manual, she allowed, if you read it carefully, there's an allowance for independent churches. The BOD church, which is what I call it, doesn't have control over all the branch churches. You are independent, so therefore you are free to demonstrate. And when you are free to demonstrate, then you decide on things. And if something is good, it will be proven to be good. And if something is bad, it will be proven to be bad. It will rise or fall according to the truth behind it.
I think it gives the freedom for God to be the head of it.
Yes.
In the book Footsteps by Carpenter, on chapter 20, I would recommend if people are interested, it speaks to this topic about demonstration, and that Mrs. Eddy wanted her students to demonstrate, not worry about what she wanted or didn't want, but what God wanted, because she felt if it was what God wanted, then of course it would be what she wanted.
Thank you.
And he explains it and how she taught it.
That is all she ever wanted. And she knew if you were truly taught in this science, you would be demonstrating. And that's where the tragic thing is, that people think they know science and they don't. You know, someone recently who joined our church told me, in a beautiful church in, I won't say, well, it was in Virginia, but anyway, and there was a fight over people wanted to sell the church and people that didn't want to sell the church. And she was one who did not want to sell the church. She said it was a beautiful church. It stood for a long time. And she said all these new people who didn't even understand the science were the ones who wanted to sell it. And this continual contention going on. But I thought if they knew the science, if they were being taught the science, this would not be. They might have something going on. I mean, frankly, we had it in our church, but it resolved itself through prayer. It resolved itself. And that's how it should be. But when you have really working scientists who know how to work, that's what will happen. It won't be some big fight and then this idea of these people that don't even know the science are trying to do things that perhaps aren't the wisest thing to do. The value of our roundtables and Bible studies, the value of learning to watch is, it's invaluable. And this is the sacrament. This is the daily living it. And then it says, if all who partake, Science and Health, citation 4, if all who partook of the sacrament had really commemorated the sufferings of Jesus and drunk his cup, they would have revolutionized the world. If all who seek his commemoration through material symbols will take up the cross, heal the sick, cast out evils, and preach Christ or truth to the poor. The receptive thought, they will bring in the millennium. This is the promise. And you know, in her article, Faith Cure, in Retrospection and Introspection, she makes the distinction between Faith Cure, where it's just euphoria and you get a truth and you start feeling great, and really doing this. Are you willing to do this? And if you take up any of this study at all in earnest, you will find these things will start happening. And if you're willing to keep going through the resistance, all that says you can't, you don't want to, your relatives don't want you here, if you keep going through it, this is taking up the cross. And this will revolutionize the world, and it will bring in the millennium. And about the millennium, on page 239, miscellany, the millennium is a state and stage of mental advancement going on since ever time was. Its impetus, accelerated by the advent of Christian Science, is marked and will increase till all men shall know him, divine love, from the least to the greatest, and one God and the brotherhood of man shall be known and acknowledged throughout the earth. Is not this what we want? You want this for a goal? Well, let this be. This is our goal, okay? You want a goal? Let this be the goal.
And if you have some other goal that's more important than this, then go try it. Good luck.
Exactly. Go try it. Most of us here have tried it.
Yeah, we've all
I think
that's the
so.
goal.
Mhm.
Yeah. So go for it.
And if you can't let go of it, then go ahead and give it a try. And let the failure come. That'll help you let go of it.
Try the spirits.
Yeah.
And don't be too proud to come back.
Yes,
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Very
Because we will be here without judgment.
It's true.
Because we've all been there.
Not such a bad thing. St. Paul said, I took pleasure in infirmities. Really? Because of the learning experience that comes from each one.
Yes.
Right.
It's a good progressive step.
Trials are proof of God's care.
They certainly are.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the real true science, what you're getting here. This is what heals all the sins and troubles of mankind. But it takes this kind of dedication, not the waving of a magic wand. It's not, I want this science to make my life better, my children A students, my health great, that beautiful car at the store that I want. That's not science, not even close. And this is true sacrament. And it starts with the prayers of this lesson this week, which was, Lord, what wilt thou have me do? And also, here am I, send me. It's that willingness to be used by God without hesitation or doubt. So I'll have Gary end today. There's still more. Many of you wrote many beautiful things on the forum. Thank you. But I'll have Gary end on what inspired this lesson, which was the song that our little group sang a few weeks ago. Here I am, Lord.
I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry. All who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I, who made the stars at night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of snow and rain, I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone, give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my word to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of wind and flame, I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will save. Finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart.
That should be our prayer, and in that unself love, we will find ourselves. So, we thank you all for joining us today, and we'll go on and have a powerful service, our sacrament service, Communion Sunday. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, join